When it comes down to it, there is really only one reason to buy a Pixel phone instead of another Android phone: Google software. It's cleaner and less cluttered than other versions of Android, it's guaranteed to get at least 3 years of timely software updates, and, perhaps most importantly, the camera. The new Pixel 4a comes with a 12.2-megapixel rear camera with 1.4 pixel width, dual pixel phase detection autofocus, OIS and EIS, f1.7 equivalent aperture, 77-degree field of view. Video is pretty normal, 1080p at 30, 60, or 120 fps, 720p at 30, 60, or 240 fps, and finally, 4K at 30 fps. Front camera, 8-megapixel, 1.12 pixel width, f2.0 equivalent aperture, and an 84-degree field of view. Portrait mode is one of the major features of the Google Camera app on Pixel smartphones. It enables professional-looking shallow depth of field images. Despite only having one rear lens, the Pixel 4a can capture excellent shallow depth of field bokeh shots, judging from this example taken next to a pool. The subject is clearly in focus and isolated from the blur behind. The bokeh itself is high quality, and you can even make out the droplets of water suspended in mid-air in the background. Nothing is blown out or underexposed, and once again, this is simply an expertly balanced image that you typically don't see from cheap phones. When portrait mode is enabled, the camera zooms in a bit, 1.5x for the rear camera and 1.2x for the front camera, because the narrower field of view encourages users to stand further back, which reduces perspective distortion and leads to better portrait photos. Like most Pixel smartphones, the Pixel 4a can use portrait mode with a single camera. Astrophotography is a new Google camera feature introduced with the Pixel 4a. The feature allows users to take photos of the starry sky. It expands upon the existing night sight camera mode, which enables handheld long exposure shots. Astrophotography requires the user to enable night sight and then leave the phone completely still for several minutes while the phone captures multiple exposures. Google's closest competitor here, Apple's brand new iPhone SE 2020, lacks a comparable night mode, meaning the Pixel 4a has an advantage here simply by showing up. Even details deep within the shadows of the trees in the foreground are clear, yet somehow not artificially overbrightened at the expense of contrast. It's truly an impressive scene. There are sacrifices, though. Because the Pixel 4a lacks the extra image processor you get on the Pixel 4, images take noticeably longer to process before you can view them. Google also tells me that sometimes its HDR+ algorithm will utilize fewer shots than the Pixel 4, but I couldn't tell any difference in practice. HDR+ is another major feature in the Google Camera app. The feature takes continuous burst shots with short exposures, and the sharpest images are aligned and combined to produce a single image, with higher dynamic range. HDR+ is one of the first major features of the Google Camera app, which dates all the way back to the Google Nexus 5 and 6, so it's no surprise to see that it's supported on the Google Pixel 4a. But the photos speak for themselves. Some of the shots in TechnoLike's report are jaw-dropping, especially the one above, overlooking a forest. There are flagship phone cameras that will set you back twice or even 3 times what the Pixel 4a will probably cost that fail to deliver the kind of dynamic range you see here. Night sight is one of the best Google camera features to come from the Pixel 3 launch. Google's night sight mode has kept Pixel phones in the conversation as the best camera phones for low-light shots, right under Huawei's Mate and P series flagships. Zoom samples. The Pixel 4 was Google's first Pixel device with dual rear cameras. Google chose a telephoto camera for the Pixel 4's secondary rear camera, allowing the phone to boast improved portrait mode shots and crisp 2x optical zoom and up to 8x digital zoom. Part of what makes zoom shots on the Pixel 4 so great is Google's new super resolution zoom algorithm. While the Google Pixel 4 only has a single primary camera, super resolution zoom helps it take passable zoomed-in shots at up to 8x magnification. Lastly, here are some indoor camera samples from the Google Pixel 4a. These cameras are particularly impressive in the dark. Their night modes are great, especially at the $349 price point. I also compared the 4A to the iPhone SE, and while the iPhone occasionally takes more pleasing, warmer photos in daylight, it gets absolutely crushed at night as it doesn't have a comparable night mode. The Pixel 4a camera is a lot better than the Pixel 3 and even Samsung S20 Plus in the case of night mode, says the senior contributor from XDAdevelopers.com. Overall, it's hard not to be impressed with what Google's apparently been able to pull off, yet again with the Pixel 4a. This phone might not have a dazzling 108MP sensor or a time-of-flight optic to suss out depth, but then, it seemingly doesn't need one. It's a reminder that one well-crafted camera can beat several, if you know what you're doing. Hey, thanks for watching. See you guys in the next video. Bye. Like and subscribe if you liked the video.